Hello. Welcome. Hi, I'm Josh. I have some people with me. I have Barbara Dunkelman and Blaine Gibson. And then I have a couple people who aren't actually on the schedule. I've got the Willemses. And Aaron Marquis. We might have some other people show up. We'll see what happens. You good? Oh man, this jacket. I forgot how tight this jacket is, actually. Blaine was supposed to be in uniform, but
I was like, I drank too much last night. I'm sorry.
He's so fat.
Sorry.
This hat, by the way, is so fucking tight. And I had to wear this for like 3
lit,
weeks.
fam.
And this hat's so small. I mean, so big.
You guys sound really Canadian right now.
Yeah, me and Elyse have the same hat. It's the exact same hat, and it goes like this on her. And mine doesn't even go down.
Doesn't like Elyse's have some writing?
Oh, yeah. I'll tweet this out, but mine also has the word Barbara written in it, but then crossed out. and then it says knuckle.
That's what God did to you when you were born.
We have some of the costumes in the back, but I mean, before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to Erica Slay, who is our costume designer.
is she here?
She's sleeping.
Yeah. You're not here, are you, Erica? Are you hiding out there? No. Great.
Do we have any cosplayers from the show? Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a Marquis too.
I love the lone Gus out there.
I ran into somebody yesterday and was like, they were dressed up as like Barbara and Elyse. I was like, oh, which one are you? Are you Moose or Knuckle? And she's like, I'm Agent Beaver. And I was like, all right, great.
Yeah. It is funny because I'd already had you, Barbara. I was like, oh, Barbara's going to be Agent Moose. And then I asked Elyse. She also wanted to be a Canadian. So I was like, she's Agent Moose. And immediately it's like, I'm going to be Knuckle. Like, no hesitation.
There was like a lot of there was a lot of like jokes that were like that. That was just like the cast just saying like, hey, what if we tried this? And then like me and Josh would be like, yeah, let's run with that.
I think my favorite one of all time was Elise's ad lib.
Yeah, oh my god.
Were we supposed to bleach our assholes?
It was really hard because Blaine was so funny. And every time we did that scene, he was just funnier and funnier. And he would keep saying something weirder, a weirder flaw that he had with himself. And if you guys know Blaine, Blaine's like pretty much the perfect man, but he doesn't see that. James. Don't laugh! Don't laugh! I was being serious. Do not laugh. Why are you still laughing? Oh, you.
That was like an especially rough day of filming because I think we were like running behind that morning. And I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. But like, I was just super stressed out. And like the first couple takes I thought were just kind of okay. And I could see Josh behind the camera and he was just like, you know, give me something a little bit more. Just go loose. And I think at one point you like pulled me to the side and you're like, just go crazy with it. Like you just own it. And then I just let loose and all the stresses from that accumulated like 3 weeks of shooting just came out in that like one performance.
Those are real tears.
Pretty much. I mean, like, I think I went on for like 5 minutes and my voice was gone the rest of the day just from screaming. But it was like, that was like one of the funnest things and the best scenes to do. And like, you know, it's a good thing when you look behind camera and Josh is giggling. Like when you see his belly go, ha ha ha.
So jolly.
It's the Josh Belly test. No, it was what it was actually a really challenging shoot. It was really fun, but it was pretty tough. And to give you a reference point, so I made 10 Little Roosters with a super skeleton crew. Shot only in stage 5, and I shot that in 13 days. And there were kind of crazy limitations, like some of y'all might know this, but like the reason that Bernie, Gavin, and Michael die so fast in 10 Little Roosters is because they were about to film Laser Team. So I had literally had Michael, he had 1 day availability, Gavin had 2 days, and Bernie had 3. So I had to shoot them out first. I didn't have that problem this time. Everyone was a little, well, actually, scheduling is tough. We'll get to that in a bit. But so I shot that in 13 days. And it runtime somewhere around, it's just under an hour. 11 Little Roosters runs almost 90 minutes. So yeah, basically a feature film. I shot it in 1 day less. I shot it in 12 days instead of 13. We shot it.
I just spotted her in the audience, but like a huge part of this is, what did we had like 37 confirmed cast members, right? Yeah. And like the goal that we had going into it was like, this should be the ultimate love letter to the Rooster Teeth community. We should fit as many RT talent in as possible, and we should reach out. We should go, Funhouse and just like get everyone. We even got Derek Acosta from Mega 64. Like we're just trying to stuff as many people in there so that it could be like the best thing for all Rooster Teeth fans. And to do that, it was just so many cast members. And Jessica Vasami was one of the biggest helps in that. Stand up. Yeah, she did an awesome job. And just our whole, not only our cast, but our crew just did an amazing job of just, oh God. That was just the longest shoot ever.
It was a huge shoot. Yeah. Like, that was the longest shoot I think I've been a part of with Rooster Teeth. It felt like we were actually shooting a whole movie, which essentially we were. And I don't envy anyone having to deal with like 30 Rooster Teeth cast members because we're all so busy filming other shows and being in other stuff. And having to coordinate that, I assume, is the biggest headache in the world.
And like, you guys were still doing pickups at RTX, like Sydney, because you were doing...
I did that scene with Kojima at RTX Sydney, which was incredible because I walked in. Apparently, you guys had like briefed him on the script and stuff like that, so he knew the characters a little bit. And when I walked in with this hat and like the whole costume, he starts laughing at me, and he like pointing at me and he goes, "Agent Moose." And I was like,
Yeah, that was so cool. We found out Kojima was coming to RTX Sydney. And they actually initially reached out and they were like, "Do you want Hideo Kojima in day 5 and like do a day 5 scene?" I was like, I don't know if that really fits, but I do. We have 11 Little Roosters, and a lot of the backbone of that game and the way that you interact with it as an audience is based a lot on sort of the fourth wall breaks he does in his games. And so we were like, yeah, we have this show. It would be amazing to get him in it because the show's basically an homage to him. So I jumped through all these hoops to get it. We sent a treatment, and I waited for 2 weeks, and then they were like, yeah, he likes it, now he wants to see a script. And then we sent him a script, and he approved that. And then we got to RTX Sydney, and he had his own little, there was, the VIP area, and then he had his own little, smaller VIP area.
It was a green room, and then there was, a blue room within the green room.
Yeah.
And that was Kojima's son.
Yeah. And so we were getting ready to film, and then his assistant came out and was like, his producer actually came out, and he was like, "Hey, so he wants to talk through some of this with you guys. Like, he wants to understand the story, and he has questions." And we're like, "Okay." If you've seen that scene, nothing happens in that scene. So it's just like a one-off joke. So we had to go in there and pretend like we'd really thought this character through, and so he's like, "How come I don't know?" If I'm part of the bad organization, how come I don't know the status of it? What? I'm like, "Oh, because you're in such deep cover. You've been under so long."
I thought a rat scurried in. Not that far off. I heard cheering. Was that you, Chris, causing that?
Probably. That was me trying to kill Aaron was causing that.
I couldn't tell if it was cheers or screams.
Both, I think.
I like your wig, Chris.
You look like a white nightmare, dude.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know which way was up and
You
which
look
way
like
is
Robin.
He looks like Kato Kalin, but no one will know what that means.
Did you not come prepared with your dumbass accent?
Yeah.
Chris, every day before we'd shoot a scene, not even every day, it was just like every 5 minutes leading up to a scene he was in, he'd pull up this YouTube video of some Swedish guy reciting some Johnny Cash song.
Yeah, and he'd be like trying to emulate it, so he goes, I don't remember. I don't remember.
It sounds like a fucking broken VHS or cassette tape.
Or like when you play it backwards.
Didn't you ran into some a Swedish person, right? Like after you'd been practicing, you're like, "Can I practice it on you?" Right?
Yeah, she's not impressed.
It really does. It's this amorphous accent that you're not really sure what. Like at times it's Kermit the Frog, like.
It's the last accent you hear before the box closes on you and you're thrown into the river. Like that's.
So, continuing off what Josh was saying, we're in there explaining this story to Kojima, and I realized, too, how, convoluted the storyline was, and I was like, fuck, he's not going to go for this. And then I started thinking, no, we're safe. It's Metal Gear Solid. That is the most complicated story ever.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and finish it.
No, that's it. That was the end.
Oh, yeah, Kojima ended up just kind of, listening, and we had that moment where Josh was wrapped up with his story, and then we just kind of had, waiting on his response, and he was like, okay. And then we got shushed off.
I will say, when you see him in the briefing scene, and then when you see him in the end transmission, he's wearing different glasses, and that was his idea. He was like, these are for when I'm good, these are for when I'm bad.
me and Josh were like, yeah, okay, yeah. All right. Right on. We did a couple of takes on his evil laugh, and he was really getting into that. And I remember at one point I was like, you want to do one more? And he was like, no, that one was good. And I was like, all right, you got it, Hideo.
I had a very awkward first meeting with him too, because we met him the night before at the welcome party to RTX Sydney, and I didn't know culture-wise if I should bow or shake his hand. So I had this moment where I I met him and I walked up to him and I'm like.
What is this robot you bringing me?
But that was a great scene, that post-credit scene, because at that point we hadn't been able to include Lindsay and Jeremy, which we were kind of bummed that we didn't get to have them, because I feel like that was the thing to complete the cast list. There's a couple people here and there, but that was good too, to tie them in as well. So.
Yeah. I also didn't know if they'd let me make another one after this, so I just crammed everybody in it that I could. It was a desperate plea. Yeah. James, I remember you guys told the story on I think the making of, where this is the first. I'd met Adam before, but I hadn't met y'all. But this was at Let's Play Live in Austin, and I was sloppy drunk. I was crawling on the floor. And that was your first impression, and I asked you then and there. I got down on one knee or two hands, and then I asked for you guys to be in the show that did not exist.
Yeah, it was. So this is the first Let's Play Live. So this happened, I think, a month after we joined the company, and so no one really knew. People at the company knew who we were, but none of the Rooster Teeth audience really knew or cared. But regardless, it was really nice because everyone was very welcoming, and I remember going, not backstage, as the VIP area or green room or wherever, and then I had never met Josh before. I knew who he was as a creator in Rooster Teeth and kind of okay writer, and so but I had never actually met him before, and he literally just walked up and he goes, you guys are gonna be in ELR. And I'm like, what?
Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah. He just says he's like, I'm doing it at 10 Little Roosters 2, and you guys are gonna be in it. It's gonna be awesome. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And I was really excited to do new things with Rooster Teeth, one of the awesome things. And then it was 2 years before anything came of it. And then I hadn't heard anything since that one drunk night. And then there was the announcement video, the trailer that you put up, and I was like, well, we weren't in that. So I don't know. But yeah, it ended up being a nice surprise that it actually came to fruition.
Yeah.
A similar thing happened to me. Josh, he said, you're going to be in ELR, but it was a text message. So it's like really weird how that translated, but I got the idea.
It was also a text sent 1 week ago.
For that trailer too, I felt like you were just going up to each person. You're like, what country do you want to be? And I was like, Germany. You're like, that's taken already. I was like, Russia. You're like, that's taken already. I'm like, Canada, I guess. And you're like, cool, let's do that. And I guess that morphed into whatever this was.
Whatever the hell this is. Some people I knew. Some people I approached with specific roles because I knew I had the Chris twist early. Like I knew he was gonna come back. I had the Gandalf the White parody. I did not know we were gonna do him falling to his death and hitting the ground. I knew he was gonna fall off a catwalk, but I wrote that scene. I remember turning it in to Jessica and to we also had a great producer, Jeff Guerrero, and Meg was our first AD. Turning that in and thinking I was like, I don't know if we can afford this, but I have a really good joke, like if we can, and it turned out we could. So, how'd y'all like that Chris death? How what? Oh yeah.
We were doing that I sliced open my hand
Yeah.
on the knife trying to catch it. We did a perfect take.
Yeah.
An absolutely perfect take. And then we're like, let's do one more for safety. And I grabbed the knife upside down.
And you can see, I think it's in the bloopers where you grab it and go, ah! But then you don't realize when you open it, like your hand's bloody. Like it's not just a gag.
Some of the weapons we had as props were like pretty real, like heavy duty. Like I had a knife attached to my arm that was like a real knife.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until like one of the last days. I was like, shit, I've had this on me the whole time.
Chris had you had a real knife to my throat in that one scene. You were like, you're going like that. I was like, Chris, it's a real knife.
Chris said he needed it. He said he needed to be method.
Yeah, he's like, Chris was like, just don't move. It'll be fine.
It was dulled.
Yeah, it was
somewhat.
dulled.
Not enough to not slice open your hand, but the throats are much thicker.
Yeah, much
Yeah.
thicker stuff.
It was impossible to do any scene with Chris.
Yeah, I know, man. You guys, if y'all seen the bloopers where Barbara keeps breaking from Chris that one line, like that's 3 of like 15 takes where that happens.
At least.
Yeah.
The problem was he kept saying something different every time, so I was never ready for it. He'd be like, I woke up with 3 holes in my body. My mouse, my pee-pee, and my tutu. Or like every time it'd be something different, so I like mentally couldn't prepare for each.
Yeah, it got to a point where when we were getting Barbara's coverage of that scene, like Chris wasn't allowed to talk. It was like, Chris, you just have to sit there and nod your head, like you're gonna break her.
There was the catwalk sequence
Yeah.
where there's a lot of stuff that happened. Like, obviously, there's the script, but then there's a lot of stuff, kind of like Blaine was talking about, where it's like, all right, on the day of, just do something. And then there were all the Lord of the Rings lines that you were like basically giving phonetically to Chris right before he went up there. It's like, by the moon of Mundu. Like, and so every single time he did it, it was a different screwed up version of Gandalf. And we were just dying. Like, it was fantastic.
I mean, speaking of that, like, what overall, starting with Chris and working down, like, what were some of you guys' like favorite memories from shooting 11 Little Roosters? Like, favorite scenes or biggest laughs? Chris, you got anything?
Just that the opening scene in the big conference room was a lot of fun, just because it's very rare that many people are in one space, all working on one production. Even though not all of them were actually there, but most.
We shot that scene over 3 days.
Yeah.
Because there were so many people, and there's most of the people are in the room. But
I think Jessica played Mariel's shoulder.
Jessica's
in
Mariel's
that
shoulder.
scene from one shot.
But
yeah.
It was fun because everyone was kind of like figuring out their character still. So everyone's like, is this? Like Bernie was practicing his Italian accent. And, like everyone's practicing accents off to the side.
Ashley told me that Bernie would just walk around their house, or mansion rather, and and he would just be reciting The Godfather. He'd be watching Don Corleone, and I can imagine this fucking madman just like walking around this huge house, talking like Don Corleone. So, all right, favorite scene was.
Well, I was going to say the same thing. Thanks. No, I mean, when we were all sitting around, I was like, man, I haven't seen all of these people in the same room in, well, maybe a meeting. But, I mean, actually, for a couple years or something like that. It was really nice. But I will say there was this one instance. We're filming a scene with me and Elyse and Barbara in a park, and there were these kids playing ball or something far off, and I finished the scene, and I was like, well, I put down the cigarette, and I ran, and I chased at the kids. And I was hoping that we were gonna, we'd get it on camera, but
No, it's like you go like just off camera, but he's like, get out of here, like, shoo. Yeah.
I think they screamed.
yeah, they
I
screamed.
don't think the kids knew.
Yeah, they didn't know who I was. I was just a maniac with a cigarette chasing.
I think my favorite thing that we did with Aaron was when he killed Mariel, Gus, and Miles. And he's in the park and like he's soccer blue. He's killed 2 men. That's against his code. And he's yelling and he just like, we didn't call cut. We just wanted to see what he would do. And he just kept yelling. And he just made these awful guttural noises. And at one point you're like, ah! And he's just like fucking yelling like a madman.
And also, we tried to make sure people kind of had a say in their character, except James. And but Aaron actually was the one who came up with basically the bones of your character, because we knew you were going to be France. And then he came to me one day and he was like, okay, I think what we should do should be a parody of The Professional, but instead of not killing women and children, that's all he kills. And I was like, sold, totally sold.
Well, I was lucky enough that I got to do the 360 shoots, which were pretty incredible. Those are, and that was the first thing we shot. So like it was literally we like got to the venue on the first day, and then Josh and Blaine were like, "Here are your gay clothes, get dressed," and then get up on stage because we're gonna bring in 60 people to come laugh at you and cheer at you while you're doing a gay dance. But that was a lot of fun, though. Man, you guys came up with those songs like hours, like at like 2 a.m. the night before, and then we would just get like an email at like 6:30 a.m. that's like, here's your song. It's about being gay and being happy. Memorize these lyrics and learn and create choreography for it because you're gonna have to dance for 60 people in about 2 hours.
That sounds like 10 little roosters.
Yeah, it was incredibly hot, but those shoots were so much fun. And I remember there's one point where we were all in costume and we went out to just get some air. It would get so hot in that venue, so we went out onto the street, 6th Street, dressed like this, and we were standing there. And then we were like, "Oh my God, we look ridiculous!" And as we were about to say that, some guy walked by wearing cowboy boots and then cut off jeans and like an open like leather vest with a big fancy cowboy hat on, and I was like, "Oh wait, it's Austin." Yeah.
We actually Lawrence wore through his knees on that shoot. I had to buy him new pants for his actual scenes.
Was it the shoot or afterwards?
It was both.
What were we doing to where we had to like come up with those songs? Because I remember that like Josh and I literally had to like find music and then write lyrics to those fucking songs.
Those days were in the middle of the shoot. Like we'd already been shooting for a week. It was their first day. They got in. They shot like week 2. Yeah. So we'd already been filming, and it was just like that was one of those pieces that kind of fell by the wayside. And yeah, I wrote some of them like the morning of.
Same.
Yeah.
We were up like I remember like we found the music, and then I think I don't know about you, but I recorded it onto my phone, and like that was the version that we played, so that they could dance along to.
Yeah, and then we did better like mixes and had them actually sing. We brought them into the recording booth to sing the lyrics to songs with classics such as "I did not see you on that email."
Yeah, I was gonna say you're saying sing, but most of the words are just like weird chantings and such.
It's the same line repeated like 100 times because that's the point. Like at 5:30 a.m. where I was just like, "We are sex von Chocolate." Blah blah blah.
You can literally see in the sheet you handed us. It's like, okay, here he was trying, and then it's just repeat verse, repeat verse, repeat verse, repeat verse.
Yeah. It's a lot of rhymezone.com too.
Yeah. Elyse, what was your favorite memory?
I had a lot. I have to say, like, I thought Ashley Jenkins was, like, remarkable in it. I thought her performance was fantastic. And we had a scene together where we did, like, a sexy pillow fight with Blaine. And it was sexy, all right. And Ashley and I had to do, like, some actual, what appeared to be, like, hand-to-hand combat. But then we quickly realized that neither of us was at all proficient in stage fighting. So, like, what you see is us actually having to hit each other because we were so inept. So we were covered in scratches and bruises, but we thought it was a great joke, and we were laughing at it. In memories. The scars last forever, literally.
Well, honestly, a testament to the shoot itself is that, if I recall, because I just went to just watch that. I wonder why. And so I just went to watch them shoot that, and it was like really late. Like I think it had gone pretty long.
Yeah, I think we'd gone over our day at that point.
But like by a while, and so everyone is stressed out. But then as soon as that scene started shooting, like it looked like everyone there was like just enjoying it, like just having a great time doing it together and having a good time watching pillow fighting.
It did. I will say though, it felt super awkward, like watching it behind camera. I was like, oh, what have I made? Like,
well, I remember Blaine, like, it was like, all right, Blaine, every single scene, he gets a little bit more and more out of his suit, and then this is the one where he's like fully exposed, basically. And then Blaine's like, all right, I got to do this. Drops down and starts doing push-ups.
He always does that.
He drops down. He's doing push-ups and he's calling for oil. And then I go to Blaine. I'm like, Blaine, what are you doing? I was like, bring your elbows in. That way your triceps will flare up.
That was kind of weird because I remember being in a pillow fight with Ashley and Elyse, and like we're ripping each other's clothes off, and I look off camera, and James is there just like.
Yeah. And then Josh is shouting more, and I can see the red light of the camera's not on. And I'm like, what?
it's digital.
But his iPhone's propped up there.
17 iPhone.
God, I have like way too many favorite moments because I was lucky enough to get to interact with almost every single cast member and
I think you had 11 shoot days or something.
11 out of
12. Yeah.
I was almost every day shooting, which was so much fun. A couple of my favorites, that scene with me and Aaron in the park, I at one take spit the pen cap into his face. And it like clinked on his glasses and fell into a glass of milk, which is like really great.
And you laughed and I held it.
Yeah.
I think you just went, ow.
I think you mean ow, or however you say ow in a French accent. I don't know.
It's like E.T.
Ooh. Every interaction with Chris was impossible to shoot, which is like one of my favorite things. Elyse, her and I had a lot of really funny scenes together, but like any scene where she would be like popping out of somewhere. So she was always popping out. And like that one scene where she was just in a tree for some reason. Like, I just like the idea that she's like always everywhere.
Oh, and then Josh is like, act casual. So you kind of slumped and he's like, more. And you were like, more. And he's like, more. And then you were like just lying on the picnic table, essentially.
Yeah. And that thing it was cold that morning too. And that was like a stone picnic bench. So it was freezing. I loved seeing Blaine in his costume because when he was directing, he'd put a black fuzzy robe over it. And also he had this like waist pack, which made it look like he had a giant ass. God, what else? Adam Elyse in a tree costume.
That was the very first scene we shot.
That was the very first thing we shot, and I was in the script. I read like Adam in a tree costume, and I expected it to be like, look like bark and like have all the branches, and it's just like this fabric, and he was just holding two like single branches.
Well, he was supposed to be a master disguise, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but like during the I guess it was an episode where Aaron is sniping after what was his name?
Derek.
Derek, yeah. There's a Santa Claus, and that's Adam Elyse.
Yeah, if you pay attention, Adam Elyse pops up throughout the show, like in different spots as a master disguise. Yeah.
And then there's a couple scenes I got to film with the Germans, Sex von Schalke, and every time we'd call cut and we'd be waiting there, they were trying to stay in character, so they would just be calling everything around them sexy. So they'd be like, "Oh, this water is so sexy."
Well, it was.
Remember trying to get y'all to speak German?
Oh, man. So Adam isn't here. Adam Kovic isn't here, but he almost broke down in tears on set.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Like, it was the first scene that we were shooting in the Sex von Schalke home base, and just the way it worked out, Josh had said, like, there's German lines in it, but he's like, don't worry, I'll like give you the phonetics and we can like work through it, and you just need to memorize the phonetics and then you just say it and it'll be fine. And Adam is good with memorization, but not that good. And he was having a panic attack. It was just a single shot on him. So the rest of us were off camera, and we just had to feed him lines. But he could not wrap his head through it, and he'd take one thing and put a ja where it should be with a Dieter. And it's Untertitel passen. And so
There's a lot of words. There's a lot where it's like Untertitel Tatel. And
And he was like freaking out, like he was sweating, and like there were a couple points where like Josh was like, let's just hold for a minute, and like Adam wanted to do such a good job with this. He really wanted to do a good job.
He likes
for
to
everyone,
please
for this production and everything. He was really excited for it. But there was a point where he was like, turned to the person running sound and was like, "Where are you from? You're from Czechoslovakia? How's that?" Like he's just like freaking out, and like he's just like going crazy
it's
about
a lot
it.
of pressure when you do that stuff because like literally you have a crew of like 20, 25 people all staring at you, waiting to perform, and like the camera's on you, it's rolling. You got like, you can't be there for a long time doing all these takes. It's a lot of pressure. So.
And that was like the first scene we were shooting that day. We had so much stuff to shoot, and he knew like that we had a bunch of stuff to get done. Yeah, that was rough. I think at one point we were like, hey, let's get like non-essential crew to clear out and just like kind of bring him down. But after that, like he did a great job. Like all the Sex on Chocolate boys, like you guys just ran with us.
Well, the best thing about it was that we did all this and he was memorizing it. And then once we got it, like you guys were like, okay, that's good. Then someone said, you know what we should do for the other guys? Let's just write the words on cue cards. So then when they shot our verse and we had to speak German, we had all the phonetics written out. And so we're just reading the words like literally like phonetically off of a huge cue card, and Adam's sitting there just like mortified.
shaking.
It's hard to memorize English, let alone a language you don't know. So like there were those moments when like you like hate yourself because you're making, like you said, you're making so many people wait.
Yeah.
So I felt so bad because Adam like desperately like tries to do 110% like at everything he does, and so yeah, I'm like felt for him.
There was one scene, I think it was one of the first scenes Elyse and I filmed. It was when we knock on Matt's office, and like she's talking about how she like she already finished all the episode of Luge Wars or something like that, polar bears versus grizzly bears. But like every time she would say a different show, that's like very typical Canadian. I think like in the script it said border security or something like that.
Yeah, because I hear you like that show.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like Border Security Canada's Frontline. Great show, by the way. It's on Netflix. But Elyse also is really Canadian because after every time she would screw up, she would say sorry like 100 times.
Hold on, I'm just curious. What's the border security show? Like, come on in.
No, the Canadians are rough, man.
Only a couple felonies, that's no problem. Hey.
You have a better Canadian accent than I do. That was also the biggest challenge, I think, especially for me, and I think Elyse too, is actually like doing a Canadian accent. Because
You're Canadian.
I know,
Yeah.
but like I don't, for some reason, I don't like have that much of an accent, I think. So actually trying to make it,
I also have actively changed the way I say certain words. Like I don't say like tomorrow, like I say tomorrow now. I don't say tomorrow anymore. Stuff like that. So yeah, I've tried to rewire my brain so I don't sound that way. And then you guys were like, forget everything you thought you knew. Like you're Canadian again. But
I think like what was your favorite scene or favorite memory?
Favorite memory. You go first. You sound like you're ready. Let me think.
I think mine was probably Adam Ellis. Like I think Josh wrote that character around that goofy fucking accent that he always does.
Yeah, do you know, like, do y'all remember Group X? Do y'all know them? Like, 55, like this? Adam Ellis walks around the office and talks, at least to me, talks like that constantly. And so that was the entire basis of that character. But that's close enough to Russian. There you go.
Yeah. So he'd go nuts with that character, with that accent. But I do remember the day that we shot the Tetris scene. So it was like him and Gavin were going head to head on this big stage that we had. And just throwing Tetris blocks at them. We're actually throwing like these giant foam Tetris blocks. They weren't like super heavy, but they're heavy enough. And I was just like giggling my ass off because we were just pelting Gavin, and he was just like taking it and just like, oh, and just like falling. Like Gavin was an incredible like physical comedian, like he was really getting into that, which I think is a big surprise because like you think Gavin and Michael like they're probably not crazy into that, like, level of Roosters thing, but he went with it. It was fun.
No, I loved, I don't know, I kind of loved everything. What's fun about just shows in general for me is that, you start with the scripts and you start at one place and then you try and make something better through every stage, right? And so with this, I felt like we did that. I think what we shot was better than what was on the page, and I think what we edited was better than what we shot. And so there's just so many things like Elyse in the tree. Like that's not in the script, but we got to set and we're like, yep, she's going up there. God, there's so much stuff on the cutting room floor. I wish y'all could see. Like Zach Anner, he was out of control.
Continuity.
He started going off about something about like Mufasa dead in the clouds.
Yeah, well that made the cut.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh.
He started talking about the hyenas. He's like, Cheech Marin, Whoopi Goldberg, and the other one. Like, and like no one, me and Josh were like confused by what he was talking about, and we were just like, what? Like, you just go off on these tangents.
Yeah, and he is like you were about to say. Zach Anner, bless his heart, is a continuity nightmare. Like every scene, he's either this or he's this or he's this. He's all over the place. Which we've been working with him for 12, 13 years, and it's just...
The best is when he looks directly into camera when he's delivering lines, and he's like, hmm? And he'll say a joke, and then he'll look to camera. Like it's just his instinct to look to see if the camera laughed. I don't know what it is.
There was one time I was in a car with Aaron, and he rolled down the window and he screamed, "Wheelchair!" And I was like, "What are you doing?" And it was just Zach rolling down the side.
The good thing about Zach is there are certain things we shot where we had we wanted him to look into camera, and we had 2 cameras, and we could somehow get both cameras. So he's looking into camera at 2 different angles.
James looked at me and he went, but you
Let us
went
take
for
this.
I remember during that scene, so like we're supposed to play it up like Mavin killed him. You know, he comes in, he like starts approaching him and stuff like that, and then Barbara knocks the door down, and she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he's like, has a cup of tea. And I remember like we gave him a cup of we were like, "Yeah, you know, everything's calm. Like he just got in your personal bubble." And he takes the mug and he's just like flailing it around, coffee or tea's flying everywhere. We're just like, all right.
Did you give him an empty cup at the end of that?
Yeah, we just gave him an empty cup. Yeah, we can do, actually, yeah, let's do Q&A. Let's do some questions. I have stuff to give out. I think I left it in that room there. Oh, you got them. Cool.
Take one, pass it down.
Cool. So after your answer, come find me. Cool. Let's start over here.
Hi. I just wanted to thank you for the show. It was so amazing and fulfilling my self-fantasy of a Funhouse as a boy band. So
You and me both, girl.
You know, they have a cartoon that you might enjoy as well.
Nope, done.
season 2, yay.
Rest in peace.
Not renewed.
Okay, so for my question, this is specifically for Josh and Blaine, and James, you may add your input too, but so I was really happy with the entire series, but there was only one thing that was so that felt kind of hollow towards the end, and it was pretty much the end after the Sex Von Choco Boys, because even though they lived, I don't think they joined the Barbara's Ministry of Moose, and I was wondering what happened to them right after the aftermath of the show.
This is kind of my bad, right? I think we're
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So either way, we had an answer for that question. We actually did. There was something that was gonna play we had a music video that was gonna play in the credits. And what was the name of the song?
Lars on Mars.
Lars on Mars. And it was the surviving Sex Von Choco Boys tribute album to Lars that they released after, and it was them. It was gonna be them dancing on a beach
In all white versions of our costume.
Yeah. I don't remember why it didn't happen.
It was just so we are very busy, and I remember because we stayed in the house, and while we were there, you were like, "I'm thinking about doing this thing," and so Adam and I were like, "We'll write the song. Don't worry, Josh, we'll write it." And we found a song. Actually, I sent part of it to you and everything. We wrote lyrics for Lars on Mars and how he's up in the stars and everything like that. And his dance moves are better than Yar's is another one. And we wrote it, but we didn't get to record it before we left.
Okay.
And so we were like, okay, we'll try and do it when we get back. Never got around to it. And then we hadn't heard anything about whether it was going to happen. And then it was like, I think it was like maybe a week before you needed to have a cutoff for it. You're like, can you do that thing? And we were like, well, we don't have the costumes. We don't have anything. You're like, just put on some white underpants, go out to the beach and film yourselves with an iPhone. God damn it.
That's a true
But we
story.
just didn't have the, and I think Bruce was even out that week.
Yeah.
Someone wasn't there, and there was just no way for us to do it. But yeah, there was a plan.
Yeah.
There was an element of that final music video that still got incorporated into the final product, which was Lawrence's floating ghost head cheering them on and being like, yeah. So we were able to include that at least.
Yeah, that's right, because that was going to be part of the video too. At one point in the video, Lars was going to pop in, like Ghost Lars. So there you go. I tried. Sorry,
It's
blame
okay,
James.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, come on up for a thing.
Cool. Over here.
So for Josh, on the interactive side, with 10 Little Roosters, you had something where you had to deduce the true answer, and I think there was only one person who was fully correct. Where in 11 Little Roosters, it was possible to be completely correct if you just looked hard enough.
Right.
What were the advantages and disadvantages of each method, did you find?
Well, the first, I wanted to change. I didn't want to do the same thing twice. So I wanted to look for different ways it could be interactive, and I thought if this time it would be fun to gamify it a little bit more and have something where, because with 10 Little Roosters, you don't know exactly what you're looking for, right? You're getting a bunch of clues, and a lot of it's based in Rooster Teeth lore. 11 Little Roosters was meant to be a standalone show where it might help you a little bit, but it wasn't necessary to know anything about Rooster Teeth to play. And then also know exactly what you're looking for. I kind of viewed it as like a Mario game, like Mario 64. It's like there's 5 stars in every level. That's all you have to do, find the 5 stars. But how you find them is different every time. So it is an interesting mix though, because it does the first one is obviously more open-ended. You don't know the answer for sure until the next week. Whereas this one you could get it early. And I think there were 1,500 people or something that had perfect scores by the end. But here's the thing about that. The way that evened out was that a lot of those people in the finale, so there was one final run. If you had a perfect score, there was one final challenge. Yeah. And we had a lot, people were like, but you could just look up the answers on Reddit and blah, blah, blah. And that's true. But in the final run, you can't. So it's like, if you hadn't been playing the game up to that point, you hadn't actually learned how to play and what to look for, then the final challenge was going to be impossible. So.
I just remember writing the script for it too, like with Josh, making the basis of the story. Like that was fun. It was a little complex because we had availabilities of cast to take into to play. And these people died. Just getting to those certain parts, but then adding the game element was just a whole new level of writing. That was something I'd never experienced up until that point. Yeah. And Josh just had all these crazy fucking ideas, and it was insane to see all that come to fruition. And I even remember we'd be on set. Setting up art design, and then we'd just be like, hey, throw a fake letter back there, red herrings, and I bet we just destroyed people with those.
Yeah. But that's hard too, and I think I was the only one that really knew. Blaine and I had kind of walked through the design together, but I think I was the only one that kind of knew everything in my head of where it should be, and so I had a notebook, and I had, and so it's weird because there's things you would sometimes do creatively, like normally do, if we had a scene that it's in a normal edit, I'd cut this scene down to be that much faster and funnier, but but I can't because the game is in it and it has to work. So it creates these interesting limitations, and you just have to, it's a lot of detail keeping. I think we drove our continuity person on set crazy, because they were keeping track of it. Although we did a great job.
And our editors too.
Yeah.
So cool. Come on up and thing.
Cool. Over here on the left.
So Josh, you had an amazing beard shaven for the show. Unfortunately, not anymore. But while you were out in public, did you get any funny reactions for it, or if ever the chest hair as well?
I didn't walk around shirtless.
Unfortunately.
You did, but not often.
Not as often. I definitely cribbed it back for those 3 weeks. No, you know what? The unfortunate thing was the way my schedule worked out as the Colonel. I had a scene on day 2, and then I had a scene on day 12 or something. So I had to keep this beard for a week and a half and look like an asshole. And
thank you, Jessica. Thank you.
Yeah.
scheduled that.
And what was funny was when you take the paint off of the crown of the rooster, like you have no idea what it is. And so like I'd walk around in public and people just give me these weird looks because it was just like I had these little waves or something.
There's
And
the guy from Hunger Games.
Hunger
Right,
Games, yeah.
that's what I would tell. Anytime someone would ask, I was like, I'm just a really big Hunger Games fan. I think Aaron and them saw
The
me
odds
once
be ever
working.
in your favor.
Well, we were working on day 5 concurrently.
Right.
I remember one weekend we met up at a coffee shop, and I hadn't seen you since you shaved your beard. And I was just laughing at you.
I had a similar experience where I was like walking into a coffee shop looking for Josh, and it was like a crowded coffee shop, and I look around and I just see this one asshole in the corner with this stupid fucking thing, and I was like, what a dork. So.
Cool. All right, over here.
All right, so the interactive part of 11 Little Roosters is very fun. You managed to get hints into Ruby and immersion.
Yep.
What was the thought process? Like, how did you decide like what code was going to be in what? Like, what hint was going to be in what show? Or
I mean, a lot of it just had to do with what was in production at the time, for one. And I started seeding them early. Like we did, I think the Kangaroo short is chronologically the first one we put it in, and that had been out for months before 11 Little Roosters came out. But it was just about what was shooting at the time, and also just having a variety. Like I kind of wanted each sector of Rooster Teeth represented to some degree. We missed a couple, but like as many as we could out there. Which because I thought it'd be fun because once people found one, then everyone would be looking for them, in advance. Because I feel like people found them early. Someone found the Kangaroo one before the show came out.
Even weirder was like someone would find one and they're like, I bet this has something to do with the 11 Little Roosters. And typically if you read that on Reddit, you're like, oh, fucking crazy conspiracy theorists. But me and Josh were like, fuck, like
Yeah.
found it already.
Yeah, that Ruby one people found instantly.
Yeah.
Like that was instant. As soon as we put that on the TV, yeah, people were like, "What is this secret code? Like, what does it mean?"
I remember, we registered the domains for those Bitly links or whatever, the with the 6 letters or whatever, and we had those like a couple months in advance where we were able to seed those in over time. So what else did we do? Kangaroo, Ruby, immersion. I can't recall. Anyways,
I can't recall either. Cool. Thank you. Over here.
Okay, like all my questions have been taken, but except one. Were there any puzzles that you thought would be too hard for people to figure out that had to be cut because they were just too difficult and no one could figure it out? Or
we didn't really cut any.
We did. Well, we cut a couple later and moved some of the puzzles into the files themselves a little bit later in the season because I felt like some of the puzzles we designed repeated themselves a little bit, and I was trying to keep the puzzles different every episode. No, but I was surprised at which ones people found difficult and which ones people thought were easy. Like in the first episode, I thought the eye patch thing was hard, like in concept, but people cracked it instantly. Like it took 5 minutes or something. And
Oh, well.
You look lost. You're like just wondering.
Oh, did you already fill it in? Oh, that was good. All right, well, I'll see you guys later.
Oh, stay. Don't go back to Mars.
That's right, I'm dead.
Lawrence, you can sit betwixt us.
Okay.
There's a chair at the end, Lawrence. Betwixt.
Things that we thought were too hard.
Oh, too hard, right. Yeah. Sorry.
I know the Morse code one. That was one that stuck out, and that was one that unfortunately didn't.
Well, it's because we
fucking
messed
work.
up and it's not right.
I thought personally that I think it was one. It was at the end of a credit sequence or something where all these like numbers are appearing quickly.
Oh, the colored letters.
Yeah, and it was insane because Josh had all the analytics behind the codes because he was able to access the websites and find, if people were clicking on them and stuff like that. And I remember, an episode would go live and then you'd text me and then they're like, you were like cracked in 3 minutes or something. And I was like, holy shit, like you guys were just blowing through those puzzles. And I think it was also a testament to the Rooster Teeth community. You guys were actually sharing this information on the subreddit. And like everyone was helping everyone. It was really cool to watch you guys like go through and process all the puzzles. So
Yeah. Cool. Over here.
All right, so this real fast before I ask my question, this was for James and of course now Lawrence. Ich spreche Deutsch. I speak German. and I just want to say, you guys did excellent. All right, I was real happy.
Well, like we said though, we had the cards. So tell Adam. If you see Adam, let him know he did a great
All right,
job.
absolutely. I'll tell Adam. Absolutely. All right.
Danke?
Sehr gut. Sehr gut. All right.
And my favorite part about Lawrence speaking German was his face always looked like he was in so much pain.
That was just the character.
That's just German.
I remember at one point I turned to Josh. I was like, God, we should have just gone nuts with Lawrence's character. Like at that point, I don't think I'd worked with Lawrence, so I didn't know that he was gonna just go crazy with it, like all the guys. Yeah, and he just like every time it looked like we would say, all right, camera roll, turn on the fan on Lawrence's face because he was just constantly like a wind turbine. And I don't know where that came from, Lawrence, but that was like the funniest.
Lars is so sexy that it hurts him.
So there's a big issue in the Star Wars community right now, which I'm not going to get into, involving the Han Solo film. But you guys were talking a lot about improv, that's kind of the issue in the Star Wars film right now. So I was wondering, how do you guys, Josh and Blaine, view the relationship between improv and following the script?
I mean, we know the points that we need to hit. We need to get from A to B. And, you know, as long as we convey the certain amount of information to get to that point, we don't give a fuck. Like, we as long as people are having fun on set, as long as people are laughing, if they're making us laugh or they're making each other laugh, then we know that that's going to work. And I feel like that performance is going to reflect, and the community is going to enjoy that. So I was fine with it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, it goes back to the point I made a little earlier. It's just like every step of the process, you try and make it better. And that's one of those things a lot of times that makes it better. Letting people bend lines or ad lib. And there's sort of like, I feel like we kind of wrote the script to set up, like we'd write a base comedic hook of a scene and have some jokes we'd written, and then off that hook they were able to had hopefully a lot of springboards to be able to do it. We actually do it, and we do the same thing on at least all of my other shows. I mean, Day 5 is similar. Like we have, not improv, but like people bend lines and make it fit for them and for the character and things like that. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I remember also a scene where, like, I didn't notice this until, like, we were editing, but Lars is going on, he's like, I spent 17 hours on this one dance, and you didn't even learn it. And I realized, James, you're, like, mouthing his lines while he's saying it. And, like, normally that would be like, what the fuck are you doing? But it was just so funny. Like, it just...
Well, it's like we had rehearsed it right before I came in the room, like, all dances and stuff. Yeah. And, like, in our heads, it was like, oh, well, we rehearsed this conversation with Coco, so we're just performing it now.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Over here.
When you were writing the script, how was it decided who got to be what country, and were there any countries you wanted to include but you just weren't able to?
What?
Well, yeah. Well, okay, so there was one that I wanted to include that Josh and I came across. It's like we didn't really have like anyone from the East. We didn't have like a Japan, and I really wanted to have that. And I think Kojima was able to help us with that diversity. But at one point we wanted to do Freddie Wong. Like he was going to be our big get, and it just scheduling didn't work out. We're like really good friends with Freddie at RT. That was a country that didn't work out. Well, I mean, what were some like Jack's country was kind of hard to.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we had to move Jack because having Jack in the show too long. It turned out put us over budget. He's expensive.
It's because he's so good,
Yeah. So we wanted to maximize, he was our Slipknot instead. No, this isn't like to step aside from jokes actually for just a second. I'd actually years ago when we first came up. I talked to Monty about being in it. So Monty at one time was going to be one of the countries. So I think that would have been really cool. Yeah.
He would have made all of us look bad.
Yeah. Cool. Where are we at? Over here?
Hello.
Hi.
Blaine took my question.
Cool.
So I'm going to ask if you had a least favorite scene or part that you had filmed, like one that you wish you'd done better or just was not a fun one to do?
I mean, some of those sets were really hard. Like we turned in a script, all the scripts, and some of the stuff I think freaked the producers out. I mean, the Tetris fight, the catwalk scene, So we kind of had to do these creative workarounds, but then even on set, we just didn't have that much time to film those sequences. I remember the catwalk sequence was a pretty crazy day, and the way like you can't tell in the show, but like it's 2 or 3 sections that are on wheels in a dark room, and we just kept rearranging it. It's like Legos or something. Like we kept rebuilding the scene for every shot to like cheat this catwalk that didn't exist. That was really like 3 feet off the floor. And it was just there's grueling days, I think.
Yeah. I mean, well, like, bless Josh's heart because leading up to that point, I've been doing like a couple of immersions, $1 Million Button shorts and stuff like that. I hadn't taken on a big project at this,
Just like bless, it's like you're about to insult Josh.
No,
Bless his heart.
No. Like, no, I'm getting to it. So basically, like, I hadn't worked on anything that was like huge feature length. I mean, this is almost like a feature. And it was like a new kind of struggle for me to kind of deal with all these moving parts and schedules and all these like, we're just constantly moving fast. So I kind of had a slower approach to directing. And Josh is busy with like day 5 and this and like a million other things because he's just a creative. His mind's everywhere. And he taught me so much in terms of directing. Like he pushed me through. That was kind of a hard struggle. Like that day with the catwalks, that was a tough day for me. And Josh just would come in and step in, and he'd just like own the fucking set. And you got us through those like that and the sexy fight scene. Like, I had some rough days, and Josh really pushed us through.
You guys nailed the catwalk scene.
Thank you.
I think just like any time I had to do a lot of dialogue with that accent, it was really frustrating because I felt like I wasn't performing very well, and like I didn't want to disappoint these guys and just Canadians in general. But thank you. I would hope that the fact that I can't do a Canadian accent would make you not love me. That would be bad. But I can't think of a least favorite scene, but I also thought of another favorite scene was when Elyse and I were in that like evidence room, and I think it was like a collaboration between the both of us. It wasn't in the script. I was like, you should have another flashlight every time it cuts back to us. So like there's one like she had a giant one and a little one, and then like a headlamp, and then one in her mouth.
Yeah, that was fun. But I ran out of places to put flashlights, or maybe I didn't. I did.
It looks like we got a minute left.
We only have a minute left. Should we show a trailer for something? I'm just kidding, guys. I'm sorry. That was mean. That was really mean. No, I don't. Yeah, right. We don't have anything to announce, unfortunately, at this moment. But we are. There's something coming that's really cool. But it's not. What did I make them late last year? Last time 2 years? Was it 2 years between?
Yes.
Let's do 3 this time. Should we do 3? Should we up it?
Last year you told me it was coming in fall. You lied to me.
It technically. Well, it didn't not. Let's see.
We made it 27.
It technically slid in if you count the 360 videos. It's a baseball slide. No, we have something cool coming, but it's going to be a little while till we can show anything from it and talk more. Something interactive. It may not be 12 Little Roosters specifically, but it's I think something in that world. So yeah. Cool. That's it. I think we're out of time, guys. Thank y'all so much for coming out. Cool.